Hi guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Will. CSharp walkthrough is really good to connect with you all today. And I'm going to do a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to jump straight into this live stream. Right, just off screen. Got my... I've got my dual screen sorted out actually, so it just means it makes my life a little bit easier. I just have to make sure I know I click the right window so I can minimize confusions. Just on the left. So I'm just going to quickly just do a little bit of housekeeping. It's going to be quite a chill stream. It's going to be quite a fascinating topic, I think. Just going to share the link off screen to my LinkedIn. Let's go to my main page, get the link. Sorry for this, guys. It'll take too long. There we go. I got the wrong link, I think. Hopefully it's the right link. How's everyone doing? It's going to be quite a fascinating stream, I believe. I'm not too sure how long it's going to take, actually. I'm going to try and keep it fairly simple. Okay, that's fine. Share this, and I'm nearly done with housekeeping. Just be like 1 minute. Excellent. Excellent. So let's jump straight into this, guys. So, yeah, what are we doing today? So, firstly, let's get ourselves up to speed with what's going on so far. It's been a very interesting couple of days off screen because I had some issues with my sort of rendering workflow. In that, if you remember, the way I was rendering, if you've been following this little series of my 2D game engine in C#, you will notice, you will remember, hopefully, the way I was rendering sprites on the screen, sprites that you will see soon as the Parallax engine just loads up, is that I did it kind of quick and dirty in that, like, all the sprites for my one, say, character, which was like an archer samurai, was all in one list, all in one collection. And I was just using an index to access all the, the respective slots, which is fine. But I started having some really confusing issues with indexing. And I was getting animation frames in different places. Things were glitching up. So what I actually did, which I'll show you after this quick demonstration, is that I actually separated, it's quite, just a very simple workaround. I just separated each, should I say, each particular action, say idle animation, running animation, left, running animation, right, is all stored in separate collections, in separate lists in memory. And it just means that I can, rest assured that my indexes won't go amiss, because not everything is in one wide collection. Everything is segmented in separate collections, whereby the minimum and maximum values reference all the frames that I need pertaining to the animation. So I was getting some really dodgy looking results before I built this workaround, like yesterday. So far, so good. I managed to fix things. What did we get up to from before? Well, got the running animation left and right. I got like a little parallaxing zone here that once I trigger the parallax zone, so to speak, the background appears to scroll to the left, actually, I think. And as I'm running to the left, the parallaxing effect is appearing to parallax the background to the right. Now, what I want to do is fairly simple. in this stream, but it can get out of hand in a way if it's not handled in the correct way. So I'm gonna try and keep things as simple as possible. My question is, what happens when you have, say, an NPC on the screen? Let's say where the arrow is here, and you start parallaxing across the scene, so to speak. Does this NPC stay put? Is this NPC's position accounted for? Do I translate the NPC? Is there some kind of way to keep the scene consistent? That's what I'm going to kind of go for today. So I'm going to close this. I'm probably going to zoom in on the notes a little bit. Hopefully it's readable. I'm not 100% sure, because if I zoom in, it might affect the formatting a little bit. So what did we get up to? We created the parallaxing camera before in the previous video a couple days ago, I believe it was. We added animation frame. So what I want to do is kind of create this sort of global world coordinate reference, in that what I'm doing to translate the player is a simple, I'm generating rect structs, and I'm translating these rect structs across the screen. So what I'm doing, if I go to my draw function, my draw class, which I'm already in, and I scroll to my sort of draw pipeline, a little bit of action off screen. Let's make sure my monitor is actually stable. Should be fine. Yes, fine. So what happens is that I pass this very simple pipeline, starting with, I implement the physics, I draw the backgrounds, I draw all the splits in the foregrounds. Now, in terms of translation, if I go, I think it's in physics, local function. Let's see what's going on here. Firstly, I impose this gravity function on the respective rect. I just go into the gravity function in my physics class. The computer might be a little slow. I'm running a few things in the background, and if for whatever reason the stream cuts off prematurely, I'll do my best to kind of get back into things. And all this gravity function does, it takes a particular value, in this case a double, and it just post increments it. Up thrusts, post decrements at a given threshold, such that the bounding rect struct that is referencing these values is offset, and thus I kind of like, counterbalance the gravity effect. So that's going on there. I'm just going to go back. Now, to continue getting ourselves up to speed, let's see where we are. So here, I have a little bit of validation that helps to control the parallax scrolling effect. So if the bounding player rect at the x-axis falls within the bounds, or actually kind of collides with this other with this parallax zone left, which I used a rect strut for this. I could have just stuck with values, but I thought it might make sense to make it a rect anyway. I have access to x, y coordinates and dimensions, height, width. Why not? Then, and also I'm checking the input control state for controlling. If the conditions are satisfied, then what happens is that I treat the parallax scrolling. I translate the position of the rect bounds by passing its x value to this translate background function, as you can see here. And that's all well and good. But the thing I want to draw your attention to, if we have that's all well and good in a simple scene with one focal asset, one focal character. Let's do this step by step. I am going to introduce an NPC. We're going to see what happens when we try to invoke this translation effect, this parallaxing effect, without any consideration, without taking into account the need for keeping the scene consistent in respect to this kind of world coordinating kind of system, which is very simple in implementation. It can be. And then we're going to see if we can implement the respective solution within this stream. So first things first, if I want to add another character onto the scene, what I'm going to do in my workflow, I'm going to come out of my models namespace. I'm going to go to, I think it's view. I think it's this one, load animated resources. Oops, hopefully the Visual Studio runs. Now, what I've done here, as you can see, now this is probably not optimal by any stretch of the imagination. But what happens, it just makes it easier for me to even see what's going on. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Is that I individually load each respective asset. So I have a local function for the samurai, the background. I have another asset here, but I'm not really using it. And I got another set of functionality, but I'm not using it here. I got the archer idle, left, and run right animation. Now, what I want to do is have a set of animations for another character, kind of like pacing left and right. So what I'm going to have to do in this case of my little framework is that I'm going to have to make another local function for another, set of frames, but it has to remain consistent with the workflow already in place with minimal modification. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take the functionality of my run left frames for the archer samurai. Really hoping my laptop doesn't really just fail on me. I think it'll be alright. By which I mean just like reset or Visual Studio runs out of memory or something. I don't know. It's a very modest laptop. It does the job. Anyway, load archer. I'm gonna say. Now let's keep things simple. So this NPC is just I'm gonna attempt to make this NPC just pace left and right. Keep it very simple, just to kind of demonstrate the effect I'm going for here. Load NPC frames. Let's just keep it very simple. And let's do this properly. So let's say frames walk left. So again, this is a very high level simplistic example of how to go about this. And now, so if I quickly draw your attention to my assets that I'm utilizing here, that I'm using, I've already prepared off screen a few animation frames. So I have walk _ left _ 0 that goes on here. Walk left 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then I have walk right 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'm going to load these images into memory. So what I'm going to do, firstly, I need to count how many frames I'm dealing with. So for walking left, it's 0 index. Well, let's not take into account 0 index yet, because we're going to deal with the count, which 0 index will take care of itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 5 there for the 5 frames for walking to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So what I'm doing here is that I have an enumerated list, which takes into account the amount of frames I want to load, and just stores in the list. So I'm going to say here, I'm just going to keep this really simple. I'm just going to say something like NPC walk. Walk left frames, and it's 5, happens to be 5. I think there's 5 frames for walking right as well, so I'll just copy that as well. NPC walk right. And I'm just going to use that. There's not going to be any idle animation here. What's this one? Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's very strange. Okay, anyway. So I'm going to grab that. I'm going to place that in my if statement, or sorry, my for loop. Let's see. Run index. Do I need to change that? I should probably change that. Yeah, because it's a new functionality, but it's in a discrete scope, so it doesn't really matter. Let's just change that to walking left, just so it makes more sense. Really doesn't matter like that. And I'm just going to respectively kind of change some of these details. So for example, we're not looking in the Archer folder, rather we're looking in the Samurai folder, as you can see there. So I'm going to change that to Samurai. And I'm going to change it, I think it's walk _ left. And then there's the index as well. So walk _ left, and then the indexing is taken care of by the for loop, and it's concatenated at the end of the string via this toString plus the index plus accessing the toString function, plus the file extension as well as a string, which is a PNG file. That should do it. I would have successfully loaded all the left animation frames in terms of the file paths. It's going to be a very similar situation for the walking right as well. It's just a case of kind of renaming some of this. So it's going to be, in this case, I want to be looking at walk right instead. The naming convention is fairly similar, so there's less work for us to do. Let's see what happens here. NPC walk left. I'm going to change the name up here. Just going to collapse this local function. I'm going to collapse this local function too. And I'm going to just call them in the render flow. So I am loading these file paths. Let me just get this logic here. 1 and 2. Making a new entry in my outer list. Basically my list of sprite sheets, you could say. I'm going to say load samurai, it should be here. That's very strange. Hey, what is this? Wait, let me just check this out. I don't remember what this is. Okay, I just kind of zoned out there. Sorry about that, guys. 1, 2. It's not that. Just wanted to see what it was. NPC frames left and NPC frames right. I'm just gonna change that. So now that's the first part. There's a second part to this. So in our little workflow here, I'm loading all the sprite frames file paths in stored in the hard disk, and I'm storing it in memory basically. So now I need to take those file paths and access them, and basically convert that PNG image into a bitmap quick. So what I'm going to do, if you take into account this sprite local file path list, which is being added to for each set of frames, and we go up to this function, generate resources, it takes the count of that file path list, which will be incremented according to, dynamically, because we've added to the list. And what it does, it basically loops through the list and just generates the bitmap via this line 177. So I'm just going to make sure I don't think there's anything we have to do here actually. It's all dynamic. If I'm not mistaken, just double check. Yeah, it's all dynamic, so I think it's fine. If anything happens, I'll double check, but I think that's fine. So now the next thing, now that we have our kind of NPC graphics loaded, the graphics for the NPC character loaded into memory, it's a case of drawing them, and I have my draw function. I keep saying draw function. Draw class. Let's see. So I'm gonna go to. I'm gonna just hop to the left a little bit. Animate sprites. We're not going to take into account physics just yet, as this is going to be a little bit of a demonstration. Then I can apply physics such as gravity to the bounding rect holding the NPC character. I just want to kind of clear one thing at a time. This was coffee, that was water. Do excuse me. So you know what? Let's go to this animate sprites local function. So what's going on here? Oh yeah, I was checking stuff out. Okay, that's fine. Okay, anyway, let's zoom down a little bit. Let's draw our NPC. It's going to be fairly similar to this functionality. Now, because the NPC is going to be pacing around the scene, just across the scene back and forth, what I want to do is just keep this fairly simple. I'm going to call e.drawing session on the respective list with a bit of validation to control the direction. So what can we do here? Let's say draw NPC. Again, this is just to really demonstrate the kind of world coordinate system, for lack of a better term. And so what we're doing, if I just, I'm calling e.drawing session to draw the image itself, which is stored in memory. We have to reference the respective collection holding the graphics in memory, and I pass it through this custom function I wrote called animate sprites, which just takes upper and lower index and animates according to those indexes, as you can see here. So in this case, I need to target the correct index for the sprite sheet. So I'm going to just hop to my reference, my kind of like references to the indexes of the kind of like frames of animation. So if I say NPC walk left, that was the next entry that we added. So that would basically be the 4th entry into the list. And then NPC walk right, that would be the 5th entry into the list, so to speak. If I'm not mistaken, if I then model up the indexing, I'm going to go back here. I'm going to target that I'm going to target the frames by the index. I'm going to choose a speed. Let's just go with like a frame rate of like, I don't know, 4 frames. And we're going to target the lower index, which would be the first entry 0, and the upper index, I think it'd be 0 index at 4. Let's double check. Walk left 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. And what's this one? Let me just see what this overload is so I don't forget what's going on. Animation sheet index. I don't even know what that is. Let's see. Animation sheet index. I don't even know what that's for. I've actually started to forget things. Let's see. What is this describing? Okay. Okay, that's fascinating. Inspiration. Oh, why am I not? I'm passing that twice. Okay. That's very weird. Let me just see how I'm using that overload, because that actually confused me. Not even using that parameter, still working for some reason. I have to make sure that's okay. Am I using this animation sheet index? Okay. The frame of animations, the current index, I suppose. That's why. Okay, that's fine. It's kind of strange why I'm passing that same parameter twice. Bit of an oversight on my part, I think. Let me just double check by looking at the draw archer. Make sure I'm doing things correctly. So archer idle sprites, archer. Yeah, I need to sort that out, but that's fine. We run with that for now. It's superfluous, kind of using the same argument twice. It doesn't make sense. Okay, so we need to also call a bounding rect. Let's call this NPC rect. And I'm going to go ahead and create it. We're going to put it. It's a few rects, yeah, so why not? Private rect, NPC rect. We'll give it some simple bounds. Oops. Goodness. Let's see, I'll go to the constructor and just instantiate my rect. Or actually, rather, I'll put it in this kind of generate rect initialization function. Put it here. And you know, I'll use these dimensions here because I think this player 2 rect was supposed to be for the NPC, really, in a way. XY height width 620, 740. That's okay. So I've instantiated the destination rect, the bounding rect for the NPC graphics. Excuse me. And I'm calling, well, I'm not calling yet, but I have this draw NPC function, which is just literally drawing the graphic. I'm gonna call it. Oh, what am I doing? Where's the other one? Just to keep things consistent. Try and keep these a little bit neat as well. So I'm calling draw archer here. Why not call draw NPC underneath? So we're calling this function now. Now that's all well and good when we want to walk to the left. So let's draw walking to the right as well. So let's use a bit of validation to help us control this situation. And let's see. I'm just considering if there's an intuitive way to do this. What am I returning here again? Is it void? Oh, just the canvas movement. Okay, there's no. Okay, that's fine. So let's keep this fairly simple. I could just use a simple index and just increment on each frame. Just to kind of control, just pseudo AI, I guess. I'm not here to really make a whole AI class at the moment. That's not really the focal point. So I'll keep it very simple. Let's just create a member up here. I'll say private int. This is just for demonstration purposes, really. Let's call it NPC steps. I'm going to just instantiate at the top. I don't use constants too often. Let's get rid of that. It's not really needed. NPC step limit. So let's go up to like, I don't know, 20 incrementations. So we're going to increment this up to the value of 20. And then once I hit 20, then it just means I switch to the other side. So let's keep track of our state with a boolean. NPC walk direction equals false. Why not? It's actually like that. Very simple stuff, just to kind of get the proof of concept out. I'm going to go down. I'm going to go to my draw NPC function. I'm going to create my validation. If NPC steps is less than NPC walk direction, which one was it? Not that one. NPC limit, was it? I can't remember what it's called. Walk limit or something like that. I can't see it. Let's go back up. Because it's a const. That's why I can't. Oh, I get it. I can't use this keyword on consts. Step limit. Oops. Oh gosh. So up until the 20th step. Just process this. Here's the boolean one. So many names. I don't know if I actually need this. I'm going to put some validation here on that line 303 to just check the direction I'm walking in. So if this is, just to make it easy to read, if this is false, animate the NPC walking left. So I'm moving 0 to 20, and I am in the state of walking. If NPC walk direction is false, then what I am doing here is e.drawing session, draw image. Where am I? Sorry, I got a little bit distracted, guys. Yeah, to the left. So sorry, guys. I just kind of phased out there. Oh, goodness. Else, I changed the priority. It's going to be else if. Oops. I don't need to do that like that. So once this, once the, I guess the polarity of this boolean is changed, it's gonna be true, set to true, and then this will return false. This will fall through anyway. So what I'll do, I'll have quite a similar check here. NPC steps is within the limit, and this is true. So that just means I kind of sequentially call this logic. Such. And then otherwise, I reset things. Change that. And I just make sure I'm referencing the correct indexes here. So NPC, oops. NPC writes. Quite a lot of things to just get through here. I got that wrong up there as well. Like such. NPC rect. Got my target rect. That's fine. So that's my target rect. And yeah, I might actually just test this out. Make sure I'm calling it. Alright guys, if there's any errors, it will be apparent. We'll hit an exception. Let's just neaten this up a little bit. And let's see if we have that samurai just walking back and forth. Oh, but there's no translation. Actually, I've not implemented translation, just drawing. So let's just see what happens. There's not gonna. If I've done everything correctly, there won't be any translation per se, but we will see a change in animation. Translation, I can do. I can just, you know, kind of add that to the workflow, the render flow itself. Should be an issue. I can just pass it through the translate function according to the direction I want to go. I'll just let that set through. That's highlighted. It's taking a little minute to load. Okay, I'll just let the Parallax Engine load up. And if there's any issues, we will accordingly address. Let's have a look at what's going on. Will we see graphics? Well, there's the archer. I was a bit worried there for a second, but I don't see the other samurai. Let me see if I drew over him or something. The draw call actually does matter. I have to make sure I'm not drawing the background over the samurai, which I don't think I'm doing. Because, yeah, I'm calling the background first before this is even called. Right, fair enough. So I just have to see what's going on. Let's see. So I'm going to see what's going on here. Make sure I've got all my resources loaded and stuff. Draw NPC. Let's dive in there. Okay, let's have a look what's going on. Okay, my validation might be wrong. NPC steps is nil. That's the limit. Oh, I'm using the wrong member. I think. Wait, that's really weird. What's the limit? It's 20. Walk direction, is it false? I thought I set it to false. Okay, that's fine. Let's continue. So set it to true. That falls through. Okay, I see what I've done wrong here. I know I've done wrong. I see what I've done wrong here. Be careful with this kind of stuff. Dealing with Boolean flags. Take a minute to just sort this out. true. This one first. I'm gonna reset this because I want to see what happens straight at the beginning. Because this should, for the first frame, this should actually hold true, I think. So that's something wrong. Because I instantiated this member to false anyway. So I want to see if anything draws, and then maybe subsequently my logic is flawed. Of course it is, because I don't see the animation as expected. So let's have a look at what goes on here. Okay, there we go. NPC steps. Let's add things to our watch list. Might as well. Or we'll just follow it through here. It's just quick. So 0, limit is 20. That's what I thought as much. So apparently I'm calling this animate sprites. Let's just come out of this. Okay. Fascinating. Alright. Rendering. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to just check my collection. So if you recall, if I'm not mistaken, the last two, this is actually superfluous. This is a superfluous entry in that I need to actually make sure I'm not adding that. Sorry, some stuff going on off screen. Try not to get distracted. Just a friend calling me. But what am I saying? There are 5 entries in the last 2 frame lists. Really try not to get distracted here. And I think they loaded it up just correctly. So I take it that up to that point, everything should be fine. Let me just see if I can do this. 1 second, guys. See if I can pause this and just let my friend know I'm a little bit busy. Be right back. Just give me 1 minute. Let's do this. Alright, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, so I did say this was going to be a short stream. Let's get to the bottom of why things aren't rendering. You know what I want to do is kind of pretend validation. I want to return here. I want to return every step here. Not 100% sure if that will make a blinding difference, but it at least means that let's have a look what's going on. Okay. Should return that. Yeah, that's a bit risky there. I can't make unreachable code there. So I return that contingency. This will hold true at this point. Oh, and I forgot something. I need to. Oh, this is the issue. So guys, I just forgot 2 things. If I'm dealing with this index, obviously I want to increment it at every step. So sorry guys, I made such a simple mistake. Otherwise, I'm not really evaluating a change in the contingency, am I? So I got bit distracted, but it's okay. We good. What are we doing here? So I'm going to increment my my value there. This is when I hit 20, so instead of incrementing, I want to set it back to 0. And do something similar right here. Okay, that's it. Break there. Continue. I think it was a situation I was just basically locking myself out of the render logic at one point because I wasn't creating the values properly. I wasn't really validating the logic properly. For some reason, right, water goes so well with espresso. I don't ask me why. It just like water just goes so well with espresso. I don't know why. Goodness me. Anyway, let's get back onto track. I did see it in that moment. I saw a flash of the sprite, which is quite good to see. Because we might be on the right track. Let's go through this logic. Else, reset, and then that will hold to false. Okay, I made a mistake as well. So what's going on with our members? This is false. Else, we don't want to change this only in respect to this. This is the thing. I'm tying myself in a knot here. So let's just sort of focus a little bit. Just see how this pans out. It might just give me a little bit more of an idea how to approach this. Okay, I see what's going on. I'm locking myself out of the logic. I don't really like the use of this if. Sorry, the else. I'm just going to define the exact scenarios I want to evaluate. Grab that. Grab that. 0, step limit 20. Such that I'm not automatically falling down to other executing other code that I don't really want to via the else conditions. So let's try that again. Steps is 0, limit is 20, walk direction is false. So this should go through. I think I'm rendering my sprite. I'm incrementing my index, NPC steps. And I'm returning the function. That's on global scope, so that's stored, that's fine. I think. Okay, let's keep going. Back to draw NPC. Steps is now 1, so within the range of 20. This should still remain false. So now I'm animating the next frames. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get rid of this one. And I'm going to just kind of evaluate for this contingency. If I can. Here we go. So NPC steps has reached the limit. So now I am changing the direction of the samurai, and I'm resetting the steps. So now I should be only evaluating for these blocks of logic now. This will be locked out, the top two. So I'll just put this here. Actually, I'll put here instead. I go down here. Now I'm animating the walking to the right, as you can see there. And all the logic pertains the same if I didn't make a mistake there. So I'm switching between walk right, switching to walk left alternatively. So let's just run everything, see what happens. Interesting stuff. So as you can see on the screen, we have our NPC character. Kind of just looking a bit lost and confused. He's kind of disappearing there for a split second. I must be referencing something incorrectly or something. I'm not. I think it's because there are frames I'm not drawing anything, and I'm like effectively returning. I just need to call this e.draw here and here, which is fine. But let me quickly draw your attention to something. So now we've drawn our animation. What happens when I start to parallax? he kind of follows me. He's not really following me, but he's being animated in place. If you look at the arrow cursor, this guy is not moving anywhere, right? You can tell by the arrow. So my mouse pointer is here. This guy is remaining the same. This destroys the flow of the scene because we expect in this scene that NPC to be in some, like either in a fixed place or pacing with respect to his direction. So this is where the world coordinating system comes into play. But first, we're going to give him a walking path, a very simple one. I'm going to close that. I'm going to call e.drawing session. Let's see. Let's just draw him first. Why not? And I'm going to take this one as well. So there's not frames where I'm not drawing the samurai. Now let's give the samurai a walking path to help illustrate the need for kind of keeping the scene consistent on a global scale. To do this, I'm going to target the bound rect of the NPC, and I might as well use this logic here. I'm drawing the samurai. I forgot where the translate function is. I think it's in physics. Let me see. Let's see what's going on here. I can't remember. Looking for my translate function. Goodness, what's going on? Translate background, translate player. Let's try this one. I will try this functionality. Hopefully I won't need to do much. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, cool. Just gonna collapse this. Gonna look for drawing my NPC. And I'm going to call this functionality translate player. What do I need here? An X position of some sort and a state. Fine, that's not too bad actually. So let's change the rect. So the destination rect would be NPC rect. So we're altering the value of the NPC rect. And what we want to do is we want to update. I'm thinking that every time we call the draw on the next frame, it should draw this again. I had some issues where I had to reconstruct the rect, which is actually quite wasteful. I need I need a dispose function to deal with any outstanding resources if that's the case. But anyway, it's not really a glaring issue right now. I'm incrementing the X value of my player, of the NPC, but I need to pass the state. This is the character state, so I want to change that. So what I'm going to do, I want to see what's going on there. If the state is 0, if the state is 1, that's fine. I do have something pertaining to the NPC state. That would be the boolean up here, walk direction. But I think this state is more of an int. It's passed as an integer value, not a boolean. Let me just see. My mind went blank. Yeah, int. So let's see what we can do here. Don't really want to make arbitrary assignments kind of thing. I've never tried this, but let me try something here. I don't think this is the case. Yeah, I didn't think so. That's fascinating. Okay, that's fine. I'm just gonna check something. Okay, fair enough. I have to make a separate member. Just for the sake of this demonstration, let's call it NPC state int. Just make it really simple stuff to understand. We already know we're walking to the left. So I know this is a little bit magical here, but do bear with me. This is, again, just to kind of get the proof of concept out for this framework. So I'm going to make private int empty statement, start off as 0, keep it on global scope, keep it consistent. Where was I? Okay, I was here. Translate player, there we go here. Every time we change direction, we want to change the state as well. So let's go here. Oops. It's getting a bit weird and a bit confusing, but it's fine. Reset that back to 0. Just for the sake of that functionality. The reason I didn't want to pass a boolean to translate player, because what if I want to translate not just around the X, Y plane, but in other planes, so I'll need more than a boolean situation. That's kind of my weak justification for this, but it's fine for that. It works. It should work at least. So NPC state is being accounted for the translate player. So I'm updating, if I'm not mistaken, the X value here. In what way? So let's have a look. So there's a run speed associated with the translation, which is 14 units. We're going to roll with that. And we just keep going back. How long have I been streaming for so far? Oh wow, almost an hour already. Goodness me. I usually try to target like an hour, but let's keep going for now. See if I can get through as much as the agenda as I can. So here we go. Translate player. So hopefully, if the logic is sound, the NPC character should be moving across the scene as well. So I'm going to translate him on every frame, even this kind of like switching frames where I'm changing state. So I'm calling translate player. Just keep things simple, keeping it in this local functionality. Gonna update the movement on the NPC here as well, and over here too. Okay, sweet. Let's see what's going on. Visual Studio just taking its time. Quite surprised that it's already been approaching an hour. Didn't feel like it. That's all well and good. How far are we down the agenda? So creating global rec structs pertaining to the player NPC. World positions, we haven't really touched on that per se. Kind of just sorting out the NPC's base movement really. Creating a simple NPC AI, that's kind of where we are at right now. Once I can just verify that the left-right is moving, the left-right movement is working, then I can tick this one off at least. Translate the scene as it gets the parallax in camera. That's part of what we're trying to set out to achieve. Okay, that's what's going on. Ooh. This is strange. Okay, here we go. Just go out to load. Alright, so I think what's going on here is that I need to reconstruct the rect itself, which is what I'm doing with the samurai, and then that actually sorted out an issue I had. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to, oh goodness me. Yeah, that's fine. I am going to put a break here. Draw NPC. Ooh, that's not really the best place to put that. Doesn't really matter. Really, I shouldn't. I'm just gonna get rid of that. I don't really like the idea of reconstructing Rex without disposing of like resources, but for now, draw NPC. Let's see what I'm doing here. Hopefully, this will sort the issue out. NPC rect. Rect. Again, I'm sort of hard coding these values a little bit, just for the sake of speed. At least pertaining to Y width and height. Later down the line, this shouldn't be the case. So since on this part of the logic call, like this part of the cycle, the translate player function is going to update this value. So that just means I can call, when I'm reconstructing the rect, hopefully it should be okay to kind of just pass it like this. Otherwise, I need to pass the actual X value out of itself at like global scope. I think that should be fine. Hopefully. Let's observe what happens. I'm really worried about resources at this point. I don't want to put the diagnostics tool up because it just takes a little while to get going. Wait for the program to load. Here we go. Wait for the scene to load. Still had issues there, so let's see what's going on. Just make sure the values are, yeah, that's fine. Make sure the values are correctly updating. So it's not a case of reconstructing the rest really. Let's see what's going on. So what I want to do, I want to add NPC rec to the watch list. Just so that I can observe the values. So, okay, that's fine. Didn't do anything. I guess it's because I'm returning a value. I'm only returning a double. It doesn't actually change anything. I'm not making an assignment. Kind of a simple mistake, a basic mistake to make on my part. I made a mistake there, so I'm going to do as such. Every time I call translate player, I'm going to make the relevant assignment to the X property of the NPC rect. Let's see, where is it? This one here as well. Translate player over here. I think there's one more. That's fine. I'm going to get rid of the breakpoint and I'm going to see what happens. Oops. Ooh, we have some movement. The samurai's off screen. See what's going on. Now, obviously, I'm doing something wrong there, but we do have movement, which is great. What I'm doing wrong is the fact that probably my states aren't updating. Or if they are, I'm not really telling the program to change. That's very weird. Let me see what's going on. Because I thought I would have been changing the state accordingly. Let me see. If I hit a break, let me see where the X value is, if it's incrementing or post-decrementing just indefinitely. So obviously that's a huge X value. It's like 27,000. So I'm just post-incrementing indefinitely. So we can see there. So that just means, let's see where I am. NPC steps. I did that wrong, so that should be 1, I think. because it's zero. NPC steps is, let me see, just make sure it's the right thing. Oh gosh, I'm getting so confused now. What am I passing? NPC state int is the state check. Yes, it's changed to 1 here. So it's 1. So by the time I get here, this is passed as 1, translate player. I'm going to just put something here, put something here. I'm going to see what's going on. That's very weird. I wonder why it's only executing that. Maybe I'm not resetting back to 0. See what's going on here. Interesting stuff. That makes sense to me. Wait for the program to load. So debugging comes in very handy. Okay, Parallax Engine is loaded up. Or it's load, the program is loading. Excuse me. Alright, let's go. Should hit a break. I should hit a break point in my code soon. Here we go. I'm going to remove that one. I'm going to, oops, remove that break. The X value of the NPC is 2200. I'm going to continue. That's what we're interested in. State is 0. So I'm post-decrementing. That's all well and good. So I'm going to continue. Now we've changed the state. Or we are going to change the state. I think it's still 1. Yeah, it's 1. Okay, cool. So the state has changed. So now we're post-incrementing. That's fine. But now, are we going back to post-decrementation? Or maybe we're post-incrementing more than we're post-decrementing. I need to make sure everything is working correctly. State is still 1. So that's going to fall through. Let me put it here, see what happens. Yeah, so we're not resetting our state accordingly. If I go back to draw, that's very strange. So state needs to go back to 0. So here is where I'm setting state to 0, I think. Ooh, that's interesting. It's not even calling that. Okay. Yeah, that's fascinating. Limit is 20. NPC steps is 0. I think I know what's going on. I think I'm getting locked out of this level, out of this code. And I think I know why. It's because if I'm not mistaken, I'm evaluating the same logic in 2 different places and returning. So where I'm doing this check for NPC steps, this assignment for NPC step is reach the limit. I've done the same, I've made the same evaluation here. Since, yeah, that's weird. This is why I don't like Boolean flags. Let me just try to sort this out. Let me try layout validation. If this helps, that will be quite useful. Just so I know I'm computing the right validation at the right place. Because if I have 2 levels of 2 different evaluations in 2 different places, yet the executing body is doing different things, and that's really a red flag to me. Stuff is not right here. Okay, that's fine. So now, let me just see if this falls into the code, the logic eventually. No, it doesn't. Okay. Thing is, it is going to fall into this one, I think. Eventually, I might be wrong. It's really interesting. What's going on? I've reached 20. It's true. Whoops. I forgot to change the state. How do I continue? Here we go. So it's falling into the logic that I was targeting. Good to know. And I'm gonna just double check to make sure I'm entering the code here as well. Let's continue. Continue. Here we go. That's the logic that I wasn't executing before. There it is. So now I'm going to restart everything, and hopefully we have a more consistent animation. Hopefully. Okay. Wait for the program to load up. I feel like I slightly overcomplicated this logic, but it's okay. Yeah, it's just something I'm doing in a kind of straight ahead fashion, and it's fairly consistent, so I'm quite happy with that for this proof of concept. As long as the logic just kind of controls the movement of the NPC, that's the main thing we're looking at right now, which will lead us nicely into the world coordinate, setting world coordinates. You know, this kind of so-called world coordinates is to help kind of keep our scene consistent, you know, against movement and parallaxing, you know, arbitrary parallax scrolling and movement. So there we have our NPC is moving in a very funny fashion right there. But now we've you know reached one milestone. So now the next issue, if I were to move the camera off screen, or should I say parallax the camera, such that my character is being tracked, we would expect this character to just, you know, kind of remain where he is and not really follow us, but I don't think that's going to be the case. It seems that he's following us. We don't want that. We want him to be pacing in his place. We want him to stay in his lane. This archer. He's not an archer, he's more like a katana user. So what we're going to do for this is where the world coordinate system sort of comes into play. I'm going to stop this. For now, we've accomplished what we want with local functionality. I'm going to collapse it. So, let's see what we're doing here. We've created a simple AI. What we need to do now is we need to consider a situation whereby if we have our scene, if we just kind of imagine our scene like this, and we have units of space, we have the main player and the NPC. So every time the player moves, we have this effect where the NPC moves with us, which is not really what we want. Rather, what we want to do is, you know, track the scene, i.e. move the player. It's going to be a really bad demo. I'm using ASCII. Whilst NPC kind of stays in his lane, right? So what we need to take into consideration is the value of which we are incrementing our parallaxing camera needs to offset the position values of the NPC. So this is kind of where the camera functionality is sort of tied into the overall movement of the players and NPCs. So in order to do this, what we need to do is, firstly, if I look for the parallaxing functionality, let me see if I can find out if there's like a particular function I'm not too sure. Yeah, translate background is what kind of triggers that effect. So what we need to understand is that if say we are parallaxing at a set speed for the foreground, we're going to use one set of units to make things simple. For parallax effects, you can use different layers of parallaxing if you study a bit of parallaxing in games and stuff. We're going to stick to just one layer of parallaxing to keep things simple. And the unit we're using, or the value for the speed of parallax, is this background scroll speed, which is 8. So every frame that the parallax scroll is being invoked, the parallax scroll effect, we're moving 8 units or 8 pixels units, whichever, to the left or the right. We need to offset that value with respect to our every other scene, or every other NPC object pertaining to the scene accordingly. Now I'm going to try my best to keep this as simple as possible. And so what I'm going to do, I want to check out the reference. I want to see where I'm referencing the translate background. There's 2 places I'm referencing this. So there are 2 contingencies where I'm basically invoking parallaxing. That's moving left and right for the background when the player moves left and right to trigger the parallax effect. So one reference is here, translate background. So what I want to do, I need to make some kind of general functionality that will offset every other NPC and asset on the screen. This is going to be done very simply for the sake of time. So what I'm going to do, in as much as we are translating the background via this functionality, I think it might be a good idea to follow suit but offset everything else in the same vein, but in reverse, to kind of offset the effect. So how do we visualize this? I'm gonna write a note. Offset let's say scene agents. I don't know if that makes sense, but hopefully it does. Let's just say, I don't like using this complicated wording. Let's just say offset all other assets all other assets on the scene against the parallaxing effect. In which case, it's probably best to just do it one by one instead of just passing everything all at once. That's what I think, at least. So we're only in this example focusing on the samurai. We're going to target the samurai rect. See if I can find it. It's NPC, isn't it? NPC rect x, because we're dealing with the x value. Instead of translate back, I'm going to make a function called offset parallax. It's going to take an initial position value. Let me make sure I do that right. I'm going to go to here. It's going to be a fairly similar functionality to this translate background. I forgot what the name was. I think it was offset parallax, I'm not sure. One reference, yeah, I got it right. So in this particular situation, we don't need to take into account state, I think. Oh, wait, I'll leave it there for now. I don't think we need that per se. I'm just trying to see what I can do to make this work as efficiently as possible. Well, for starters, let's reverse the polarity of the scrolling incrementations. We might actually stick with state for now, because our object of focus in this particular very simple example is the main character. So we know intuitively, if the main character is parallaxing, is moving to the left of the screen, then all other inanimate objects will kind of parallax to the right, if that makes sense. So we should know that if the input parser state is at left, we want to parallax all inanimate objects to the right. And just for reference sake, where am I? Player state. Let's go. Where's player state? Left is 0, right is 1. Okay. So if this input parser accessing state, if we're passing 0, what we're going to do here is say offset objects. So I'm moving to the left, so I'm going to offset objects by translating them to the right of the scene. And quite similar here. This time to the left. This is, I don't know, if I got this right first time, then it's a very simplistic example. It's rather naive, but it gets the job done in this simplistic example, which can then be, rewritten to make it more efficient. Because obviously you're going to have like multiple objects on the screen at the end of the day, probably. For now, I'm going to test this out to just make sure it's working. It only kind of takes into account X and Y. So I am, let's see. Grab this. So I'm only calling, where am I calling this? Only one place, aren't I? So I'm just going to zoom out quickly. So every time I'm triggering the parallax scrolling, I'm triggering the offsetting as well. So this is like kind of camera functionality. Where's translate background? I think there's only 2 references, so there's one here as well. Offset all other assets on the scene against the parallaxing effect. NPC and state is going to change intuitively depending on the direction that the character is going in. So let's see what happens in this case. Quite fascinating. I might have missed some things, I'm not sure. Excuse me. Alright. Sorry for the silence. Just kind of waiting for this. Parallax Engine is loading up. Let's see what happens. Hopefully nothing is broken, which is fine. Okay, so the NPC is moving left and right. Now, if you recall, when the samurai, the main character, moved left and right to trigger the parallaxing, the NPC didn't update accordingly, so let's see what happens. Ooh, that was weird. That was very weird. Well, hit and miss. Firstly, I'm not going to say it's working, but as you can see, he is he is remaining where you would sort of expect. However, where I'm reconstructing the rect is wrong. I'm doing something whereby I'm passing incorrect values. I might be doing that. I think I know why I'm doing that. It's the... I know I did wrong. Just trigger that so I can correct myself. Whoops. So basically, I'm passing the destination rect wrong, or the input rect. I'm passing the player 1 rect. It should be the NPC rect. I'll just correct myself. I'll do the same above as well, or below, wherever I was. Offset parallax, rect bounds. Yeah, that's wrong. I think. I'm not too sure. So input rect should be the pertaining rect, which in this case is not the background rect, but the NPC rect. Well, what I'm also worried about is the fact that the NPC wasn't pacing correctly, but maybe it's because of this mistake I made. Let's have a look. Do this one step at a time. So if the NPC still doesn't pace correctly, then he should still not just like teleport to the left. He should just remain on the right. And then we're gonna get into, if I have to, I'm gonna try and correct the walking path of the NPC, because he shouldn't kind of be locked in place. He should still be pacing relative to where he should be. So let's see what happens. Okay. Okay, my program is just loading. Oh, goodness me. Okay, just wait for my scene to load. So I believe I'm on the right track. Here we go. So now when I trigger parallaxing, the samurai shouldn't just kind of teleport to the left. Oh, that's weird, you know. Okay, I think I know what's going on here. I know what's going on. So now we're facing another issue. So the issue now is that I think the values are not correctly offsetting. And we're going to deal with that. For starters, he shouldn't be following me this direction, so maybe the polarity is wrong. And I know I flipped the signs of the post incrementation, decrementation, respectively. So I think that was actually a mistake. I didn't have to do that, because the parallax direction is going to be the same as the background. So I made a mistake again. So let me just see if I trigger that. That's why he's kind of super running, like. Let's see. And so if I'm not mistaken, to fix this, hopefully, if I'm not wrong, just to change this. And let's run the program, see what happens. I should really reset it, but I kind of want to see what's going on now. I'm really curious. Okay, let's see if we can meet up with the samurai. I'm not really sure if it's going to work. Okay, that's fascinating. I think it might be working. It looks a bit jarring, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I think we've done it more or less to a very simplistic extent. So basically, this whole idea of, let's say, I know he's moving the samurai, but if he was considered an inanimate object, he should be staying in place with respect to where the view of the main character, the focus of the camera is. It still looks a little bit suspicious, but the fact that he's moving on his own set path whilst the camera is offsetting his position via the parallaxing, I think is being correctly invoked, as you'd expect. But it does look a little suspicious. I probably would have to go into debug level to just make sure everything is fine, or just kind of have markers on the graphic itself, just like little bits of debug information, just to make sure everything is sound. I mean, and at a very, eyeball-y kind of level, if you look here, this little piece of background, he's only running up to there on the left. Let's see if it maintains that as I scroll. I don't know. Seems to. So he's only running up to here. So right now, I'm sort of convinced that the global coordination is fairly consistent. He's not really moving outside the bounds. But yeah, I'm fairly happy with that. So he's moving on his own accord. The parallax is being taken care of. So let's go to the agenda. So implementation, create global rec structs, which we didn't actually do, I think. We just passed a new function. And it seems to work quite fine. So I'm just going to put like a dash through that. The camera keeps the world consistent. Yeah, we had a look at that. because we're not using anything outside the NPC rect and just keeping track of it basically, which is fine. It seems to be working. Translate the scene assets against the parallax in camera. We kind of done that basically to create the desired effect. It is now 1 hour, approaching 1 hour and a half of the stream, and I'm fairly happy with the results so far. So as a summary before we wrap up the stream, the agenda today was to implement, not just to implement parallax in camera, but to implement this kind of world coordination system such that parallax across the screen is consistent for all assets concerned. And we seem to have implemented that fairly consistently into this 2D game framework. Such that if we need to, update or extend the functionality or like add more assets in, maybe like a tree asset or something, or another NPC, or even if it's a player control character, all we need to do is just pass the relevant assets, let's use it here, to the offset parallax function. But then all we have to do is take into account the parallaxing speed that we are, the parallaxing speed that we need to take into account with respect to the layer of parallaxing. At this kind of base layer, it was only just the background parallaxing layer, so I didn't want to complicate things. So just passing to this functionality at this point. Okay, so guys, thank you for tuning into the stream. If you watched it live, it will be archived on YouTube. Quick shameless plug, I do offer freelance via my LinkedIn page. Let me just excuse me, let me just pick it up now. I'm just off screen. If I find it. Do excuse me. Okay, here we go. I think that's the right page. So this is my LinkedIn services page. I'm still working on it here and there. It's not fairly new. I've had it for a while. But anyway, it's got some base information. You can find more details here. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Hit me up on Telegram if that's your main kind of messaging system. I'm available on Telegram as well. But yeah, I can develop your next C# based game, your Windows PC game, using the technologies at my disposal and other apps. More info here. DM me on LinkedIn. Hit me up. And yeah, guys, I'm going to leave it there for now. Thanks so much for tuning in. And I bid you all a great day. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.